You will come here tonight to assist us as we continue and very soon conclude this series of gospel meetings. Some of you drove quite a distance, and this certainly is recognized and it is certainly appreciated. We again appreciate the brother who arranged the service. We also appreciate the brethren who chose the songs and who led them. And we also appreciated tonight the very good prayer. We believe the Lord has heard it, and in due time He's going to answer it. And so tonight we welcome you here to this, the Lord's house. As has been announced previously, and as the text would indicate, and as the board would show, our lesson tonight a question. Why do we worship the way we do here? I'm asking you a question, and I know that you know the answer. But this question is to me like lots of questions. I need this question asked, and I need it answered for my own good real often. And so tonight, as we bring this meeting almost to a close, I thought it might be good for us to just rehearse once more the question that has to do with that which is central to our spiritual existence, and that is worshiping the God of heaven. Our brother tonight is to be commended for the fine reading he did. He read from John 4, and I should like to notice two of the verses again that he read. These are verses 23 and 24. These are the words of Jesus Christ. But the hour cometh, and now is. Jesus Christ said to this woman so long ago, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. I submit to you there are still those who are described as true worshipers. This you want to be, and this I want to be. Life's little day is all too soon spent. And certainly it does matter how we spend this fleeting time. And when it comes to worshiping God, we must worship Him as is prescribed right here. When the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. And then Christ follows this with a stunning statement like this: for the Father seeketh such to worship Him. That appeals to me, doesn't it to you? That God the Father seeks a certain kind of worshiper. Jesus said, for the Father seeketh such to worship Him, those who will be true worshipers, those who will worship Him in spirit and in truth. And then in verse 24, God is a spirit. That's wonderful. And predicated upon this great truth, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. Notice with me this word of obligation, that is, the word must. I must breathe in order to live, which means I will not live unless I breathe. I must eat in order to live, which means I will not live if I do not eat. The word must always denotes obligation, wherever you find it. And I submit to you no less, obligation is denoted right here. When Jesus says, they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. He doesn't say should worship Him this way or would worship Him this way, but notice He says they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. Leaving this truth right here, He would say also, those who do not worship Him in spirit and in truth are just not worshiping Him at all. And so tonight's so important that we worship right. You know that as well as I do. You appreciate that as much as I do. I know that you do. And so tonight I question, why do we worship the way we do here? In other words, why do we do what we're doing here tonight? Why in the morning, the Lord's Day, will we be doing the things that we will be doing? And in the way that we do them. Why is this? submit to you, this is a pretty good question. Not all questions are good, are they? But I believe tonight this is a pretty good question. Why do we worship the way we do here? I believe tonight this is a sincere question too. Not all questions sincere. I know that you want to be sincere. I know you do. I know that you are. And this is a sincere question, and we're going to treat it just that. It is a sensible question. Lots of questions we hear are not sensible, are they? But I submit to you, this is a real sensible question. I submit to you too, it's a logical question. Not all questions logical, some of them illogical, some of them nonsensical. But I'll tell you, this is a sensible question, and it is a logical question. I submit to you that this is an important question. Its subject, worship, is the most important subject. Not all questions important. But I believe tonight, yes, fellow travelers from earth to heaven, that this tonight is an important question for us now, as well as for after a while. I submit to you too that this is a Bible question. Not all questions, Bible questions. All of us would agree. But this one is a Bible question. I submit to you that Bible questions, wherever you find them, wherever you hear them, always deserve a Bible answer. When I ask a Bible question, I want a Bible answer, don't you? When I ask a Bible question, I don't want man's answer. I want what the book says is the answer, and so Bible questions deserve Bible answers. Question has to do with the subject that Christ emphasized heavily. They that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth, since He is the Spirit. I submit to you that this question has to do with our salvation. And anything that has to do with our salvation is to us a very important thing, isn't it? Question for all to ponder. Those who may be visitors here tonight and maybe do not quite understand why we worship the way we do here, I would hope that this would at least be informative to you. And then, good, I think, for those of us who have for some time worshiped this way, the way we worship right here at Walnut Grove, the way I worship, where I call home, I sometimes tell my wife that she's one of the most fortunate people I know when it comes to worship, because the way she worships right now, the way we worship right here, is the way she's always worshipped. When she was a babe in arms, her mother and father took her to the assembly in Carter County, Oklahoma, where they were meeting and worshiping, just like we do right here. And this is the way she's always done. She's never known anything else. She's never seen it done any other way. And I tell her, how very fortunate you are. I'm not that fortunate. I've seen it done other ways. Caused me to come to question them, and you too, most likely. And so, it's wonderful to worship the Lord right, in spirit and in truth. Lord, help us. I'd like to take you back to the Psalms and notice with you, within its context, a very, very interesting statement. This is Psalm 48, verses 12 and 13. The psalmist David, he said, walk about Zion. Now, certainly we don't have the Zion that most people did, but I submit to you that tonight the Church of Christ is the Zion of God. It sure is. Remember, Paul told the people in the Hebrews, the writer there says, you have come to Mount Zion. And then he goes on to explain what it means. Oh, you've come to the city of the living God. You've come to the church of the firstborn. You have come to an innumerable company of angels. That's what you have done. And so tonight we've come to Mount Zion. Oh, we've never been, I've never been to Jerusalem and seen old Mount Zion, and likely you haven't either, but that's not what, if you please, Paul was talking about. And I submit to you prophetically, this is not what David is talking about. He says you walk about Zion, and he says, and go round about her, and tell the towers thereof, mark you other bulwarks. You know, our bulwarks are those things that, make us strong. Those are strongholds. I submit to you tonight that we're going to mention some strongholds. We tried to do that during this meeting. When we talked about the church, we talked about some strongholds. In other words, those things that really make her what she is, you see. And so it is tonight. Mark you well her bulwarks. Great words of admonition for any time. This time as well as then. Mark you well her bulwarks. Those things that make her what she is. Those things that make her strong. Consider her palaces. Consider her beauties. Consider her palaces, that you may tell it to the generation following. One of the reasons why I give this lesson is I believe that we need to tell these things to the generation following. If we do not tell these things to the generation following, who's going to do it, you see? You see, the responsibility is great upon our shoulders this evening. Those of us who are members of the body of Jesus Christ, those of us who are public teachers or preachers, those of us who lead the church, the responsibility is great tonight. There is the generation following, and it is our responsibility, God-given, that we tell these people, the generation following, that is, that we point out to them the bulwarks of the church, that we point out to them her palaces, her beauties, if you please, and so tell it to the generation following. Tonight, this is one of our motives. 1 Peter 3 and verse 15, Peter talked there about being ready to give an answer to those who ask you the reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Notice, he says, give an answer, and he says, be ready, and then he says, with meekness and fear to give an answer. And I'm trying to with meekness, with humility, and with fear. I don't mean to, nor did Peter intend to, infer that we're just scared to death. That's not the point, you see. To fear God is to trust Him. To fear God is to, know that He is a great and wonderful God. He's a God of justice and a God of goodness, and we're going to respect Him. We're going to obey Him, you see. And so to fear Him doesn't mean that we're scared of Him, as we might be scared of some things when we're fearful. But you see, with fear and meekness, let us answer our questions. I want to, if you please, pursue a double approach to this answer. First, I want to notice with you, why do we worship the way we do here? Not just to be different. I found out a long time ago that wasn't a very good reason for anything, just to be different. Now, this may be different, the way we worship the Lord in this assembly, the way we worship the Lord all the time. This may be different, but I submit to you, this is not why we worship the Lord the way we do here. This isn't the way we worship the Lord. The reason why we worship the Lord the way we do where I call home. I'll tell you, it's just like it is here. It's not just to be different, nor is it to be difficult. That's not a very good reason either, to do anything just to be difficult and hard to get along with and cantankerous, you see. That's not a very good reason to be contrary, you see. And I submit to you, that's not the reason why we worship the Lord the way we do here, just to be contrary and difficult. It's not because of some tradition or some custom either. Traditions will mislead you. Customs will too. Have very little to do with spirituality. Have very little to do with right and wrong. And I submit to you that why do we worship the way we do here? Not because of tradition or custom. It's not because necessarily that we've always done it this way. Now we may be, as was true with my wife, as I noticed a while ago, as is true in her case. She's always worshipped this way. No other way. No other way. But I'll tell you why do we worship the way we do here. It's not because necessarily that we've always done it this way. Why do we worship the Lord the way we do here? Not because we resist change necessarily. There are several indications why your speaker this evening knows that he's growing older. Several. Well, one of them is, I resist change. I really do. Those of you who are older than I can likely relate to that. We just sort of resist change. Don't we? But I submit to you that we worship the way we do here, not because we're resisting some kind of change. We worship the way we do here tonight, not because of numbers, great or small. Numbers captivate us, they impress us, they depress us, they overwhelm us, sometimes they even deceive us, they mislead us, yes. We get the idea sometimes that just because a great number believe a certain thing, that makes that thing right. I submit to you, brothers and sisters in Christ, that's just not always the case. We get the idea sometimes that just because a small number believes something and practices it, that is proof that it's not right. It's proof that it's wrong, you see. All over our land, there are congregations that are very small in number. A lot of them that are large in number. There are a lot of them small in number. And people look at those congregations without really taking, you see, a good look at what the book teaches, and they conclude, and they don't even, determine, well, why are they worshiping the way they are? They just determine, since they are small in number, they just can't be right. They must be wrong, you see. I submit to you that just because we're small doesn't mean we're wrong. And just because we're large doesn't necessarily mean we're right. But the point is right here, it's not because of numbers the reason we worship the way we do here. Most likely when I leave here and go to other places and go home, people will ask me, Walnut, Kentucky, their first question most likely will be, I've watched this. How big were your crowds? They want to know the number first off. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or bad about that. But I won't expect, and I'll be very much surprised if I get such questions as this. And these are the kinds of questions that need to be asked. Don, were the songs and the singing so stirring? What about the people's spirit and attitude? Do they love one another? Are they on fire for the Lord? How is the spirit of the people there at Walnut, Kentucky? I don't get questions like that. And those are the questions that I need to get. Those are the kinds of questions I'd like to answer. And I dare say those are the questions, the answers to which will make people, will make them grow and make them, feel better about the church and those kinds of things. But people will just, how big can you cry? How big? How big was it? What's the number? How big is the church at Walnut Grove? I'm not saying that's a bad question, but I'm just simply saying we're just too impressed by numbers. When people ask me about the church where I'm a member, it's not, are you folks on fire for the Lord? Do you really live right? Does your walk measure up to your talk? These are important questions, you see. But people want to know, how do you need that? What's the number? I don't mind answering the question. That's not the point at all. The point is, though, why are we so obsessed with numbers? Why do we want to know how many do a thing or how few, you see, are with us? Well, the point is, when it comes to worshiping the Lord and living right, we just simply need to look above the numbers sometimes. There's an Old Testament narrative way back in 1 Kings 22 that teaches us a good lesson about numbers, a real good lesson about numbers. And I want you to just rehearse that briefly. It was during the days of Ahab. Remember Ahab? We never name our baby boys Ahab, do we? That's good reason. He was a scoundrel, that's what he was. And we don't want to give our baby boys names, that a scoundrel is born. And then, remember, his wife was Jezebel. We never name our baby girl Jezebel either, do we? We really don't. Ahab and Jezebel sort of deserve one another, really. They really did. They just simply were not what men and women ought to be. And so Ahab, I'll tell you, he had an business. He said, over in Ramoth Gilead, that belongs to us. And he went to this man, Jehoshaphat. And Jehoshaphat was, he was a better man than Ahab. But he wanted Joshua to go with him, and get this land. And Joshua, remember what he said first? He said, let us inquire at the word of the Lord today. Don't you like that? I like that suggestion. Let us inquire at the word of the Lord today. Let's see what the word of the Lord says about this. Let's not just, impetuously go into this thing and get ourselves into deep trouble. Let us find out what the word of the Lord says. I love for people to do that, don't you? I love for people to just simply, bring that up. Let us, inquire at the word of the Lord today. What does the word of the Lord say? I submit to you, brothers and sisters in Christ, we are where we are in religion because of what the word of the Lord says. I don't say that smugly or self-righteously. Indeed, I don't. But I know people in the Church of Christ. I know the Church of Christ pretty well. Yes, I do. And I'm glad I do. And we're where we are because we've inquired at the word of the Lord. Now, I don't say that braggingly, boastingly. No, sir, no. I just say that realistically. And I love to say that kind of thing to you and to myself. That we're where we are in worship. We worship the way we do. Right here. Because we've inquired at the word of the Lord. And you can't improve on that, I'll tell you, friends, up the road. Well, Ahab, he went and got 400 preachers. They were called prophets. 400 preachers. That's a lot of preachers. I've never seen that many preachers in one spot of you. No, sir, never did. Preachers, false doctrine, or true doctrine. I've never seen 400 preachers together. But I'll tell you, there were 400 there. And they got all 400 of these fellows together, and they wanted to know, is the Lord going to bless us in this in heaven? Shall we do this or shall we not? I'll tell you, this 400 to a man said, absolutely, you do what you plan to do here about Ramoth Gilead, and the Lord's going to bless you. But Jehoshaphat, he just stands out right here. He really does to me. He heard what those 400 people said, but you know what he said to old Ahab? He said, is there not a prophet of the Lord somewhere around here that we can just, one more, I just want to hear one more. You need to want to hear 401? Yes. Jehoshaphat says, these 400, you see, I'll tell you, old Jehoshaphat, he was not a perfect fellow, but I'll tell you, numbers did not impress him. 400 preachers, that's what impresses me, doesn't it? Just go to service, 400 preachers would just sort of impress you. Well, I'll tell you, Joshua said, is there not just one more, is there not a prophet of the Lord around here somewhere that we can ask him this same question and get his answer? And you remember Ahab said, yes, there's one. Micaiah is his name. He said, I hate him. Those are the very words he said. I hate the man because you always promise us evil of me. I hate him. That's what I do. And so Joshua says, I want to hear what Micaiah has to say. I want to hear his answer about this important matter. So they send a fellow ahead, to talk to Micaiah. Micaiah, these 400 preachers, they've said it's all right for these kings to do what they want to do, and we want you, Micaiah, to say the same thing. All the wrong man, it's all right there. Micaiah said, I'll tell you, fellas, whatever the Lord says to me, that's what I'm going to say. Regardless of the fact that the 400 disagree with me, I'm going to, if I have to stand alone, essentially, is what that dear man was saying. If I must stand alone, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to deviate from what the Lord says to me. Whatever the Lord says to me, that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'll tell you what day it is. He landed that very day over in the jail on bread and wine. Because he told these kings, you do that and you're going to get in trouble. Those 400 prophets, they have told you something you better not do. You better not believe those fellas. You just better not. This reminds me of a young fellow I talked to down in Tennessee one year. We talked about community, about other things, and he's such a fine fellow. And toward the end of our conversation, he said, I really am impressed with what you have said and by what the book says and that kind of thing. But he said, before I make any commitment and before I really make up my mind, I'm going to have to go up here to Nashville and I'm going to have to talk to those professors at David School. I have to talk to those professors up there. I must have to see what they say. I knew I'd lost my battle right there. The word of the Lord, you see, was right there for him. Though he had to go and talk to the professors up at David Lipscomb and over at Freed Hardeman in Murfreesboro, or wherever that is. He had to do that, you see. Well, of course, they lost the battle. Well, that's the way it is. And so, great men like Micaiah. We need lots of Micaiahs, don't we? We need lots of Joshua's too. Indeed we do. Who will just simply inquire at the word of the Lord today. When it comes to worshiping the Lord, brothers and sisters in Christ, would you just listen to me very, very closely? Never substitute what the book does not say for what the book does say. There's too much of that in the world. There's too much of that in, if you please, the church. What does the book say? So many people are willing to substitute what the book does not say for what the book does say. I'll tell you, that's a poor argument. And then when it comes to what Jesus Christ says, never substitute what Christ did not say for what Christ did say. When Christ said it, don't substitute that which he did not say for that which he said. Pretty good rule, I think. When it comes to worshiping the Lord, when it comes to sleeping right, you see. And so, why do we worship the Lord the way we do here? Not because of these things, not because of widespread acceptance and approval. Lots of people just don't approve of what we do. They just simply don't accept what we do. They will spend very much time with you reasoning about it, but that's not the reason why we worship the way we do here. Not because of widespread acceptance and approval. Why do we worship the way we do here? Not because of personal preference necessarily. Now, I may prefer to worship this way, but that's really not the reason why we worship the way we do here, is it? And friends, I want to mention this one, and this one sort of riles me. Why do we worship the way we do here? Not because we're ignorant. Anybody ever look at you and talk to you about the way you worship and just sort of leave the impression, well, you folks are just ignorant, or you would know that. You folks really are ignoramuses in religion, or you would know better than to do what you do in the assemblies of the church. Well, I may be ignorant about things, but I don't like folks telling you. When it comes to nuclear physics, I am a perfect ignoramus, but I don't like for folks to tell me that. I'll admit it myself. But when folks look at the way I worship the Lord and conclude after I've outlined to them, after they've seen it with their very eyes, after they've heard it with their very ears, and then they say, oh, you do that now because you're ignorant. You don't know any better, you see. That's not fair. So we don't like to be called ignorant, do we? Now, switch you, friends, we don't worship the Lord the way we do here because we're ignorant. No, sir. No, man. Now, we may be called ignorant, and people may think we're ignorant, but I'll tell you, calling us ignorant and thinking we're ignorant by others does not make us ignorant. Doesn't make us unlearned. I'll tell you, folks, that worship the way you do here, you're learned people. Yes, you are. You really are. Follow me, please. Why do we worship the way we do here? Because of what the Bible teaches about our subject, worship. For instance, the text that we read a while ago, they that worship God must worship Him in spirit and in truth. In Matthew 15, Christ spoke there about Isaiah's prophecy of some folks and the way they worship the Lord. And He said simply, in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. Steer clear of the commandments of men. Brothers and sisters in Christ, young person, older person, preacher, steer clear of those things because that is vain worship. In vain do they worship me. You know, anything that is vain is really empty. It is fruitless. You just don't get any reward. Oh, lots of people deny worshiping the Lord, but worshiping Him in vain, and it just will not in any way reap eternal dividends that are good. So don't worship the God of heaven in vain. This is why we steer clear of the doctrines and the commandments of men. Always steer clear of those things, brothers and sisters in Christ. Preacher, in your preaching, brother and sister in Christ, in your teaching, in your preaching, in your practice, Steer clear of those things that are rooted and based upon the doctrines and the commandments of men. What flimsy reeds those are to try to lean upon. In Matthew 17, verse 23, Paul there on Mars Hill, he told those people he saw that inscription to the unknown God. And then he said very boldly, bluntly, whom you ignorantly worship. Well, why do we worship the way we do here? I submit to you because of commands. In Ephesians 5 and verse 19, where it comes to singing and making music, Paul just simply said singing, making melody, making music in your hearts to the Lord, and you do it in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Sometimes folks with whom I talk, and you have the same experience, I know, when you talk to them about the music in the church, they'll come back and they will say, well, what about an instrument in your home? Well, I'm not talking about home, I'm talking about the church. They'll talk about instruments you know in heaven. You read about harps, and I know that. But we're not talking about heaven. We're talking about the church, and we're talking about music in the church. And then people will say, oh, we read about in the Old Testament, under the Old Law, in the Psalms, other places where they just drummed, where they played, where they danced instruments of music. I know that, you know that, but we're not talking about the Old Testament. We're not talking about way back there. We're talking about the New Testament. We're talking about the Church of Jesus Christ, you see. Just because there may be harps in heaven, just because David was a harpist, just because there are instruments in your home, doesn't mean that you can have them in the church, you see. We have lots of things in our home we don't have in the church. We have lots of things in heaven we don't have in the church. And so we're talking tonight about why do we worship the way we do here in the assembly of the Church of Jesus Christ. I submit to you because of commands. When it comes to music, we sing and make melody. Music in our hearts to the Lord. In our hearts to the Lord. Indeed we do. No prettier music than just voices raising, if you please, praises to the Most High without an instrument. And so because of commands, you know the instrument has quite a history among religious people, not only among churches of Christ, but it has an interesting history back in the denominational world. Denominations who today have their pipe organs that they pay thousands of dollars for, have their pianos that they pay lots of money for. Those denominations, you just look at the history of instrumental music in religion, and you will find that those folks had lots of trouble when they just stopped singing and making melody in their hearts. They had lots of trouble when folks brought in the instrument. And so, I submit to you, because of commands, we just sing as we do. Why do we worship the way we do? How about pray? Pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 17. And so we have one man doing the praying at a time, and we second with an amen. We follow him right along. In essence, all of us pray, not audibly. One man speak at a time, you see. I submit to you, because of commands, we worship the way we do here. When it comes to the teaching in the Lord's Day assembly or this assembly, one man doing the teaching at a time in one assembly, you see. One assembly, undivided. This is the way the Lord's people have been taught even back under the law of Moses. Just go back there to Nehemiah's day. It might have been easier for them to have just sort of divided that vast assemblage into classes and into groups. But you know what they did? That man stood on that podium way up high. And he, if you please, read the book of the law. And then there was one way out there earshot. He heard what that man read from the podium. He just sent it right on down. There was another earshot. He did the same thing, you see. That would have been a good time for them to have arranged that group of people in classes, but they didn't do it that way. I submit to you, friends, that when it comes to public teaching in religion, when it comes to public teaching in the book, it was never done in classes. Never was. I submit to you, the command is, you know, in one assembly. When the churches come together, that's what Paul would say in 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter. When you come together, you see, you just simply come together, and one man does the teaching at a time. The women keep silence. Not because women are inferior, no. Not because women are looked down upon, no. Not because we don't believe in equal rights, no. Not because we don't consider our women wonderful, and oh, we do. I don't know what the church would do without the women in the church. I really don't. I know some places right today, where men have to come in from other places because there are still some faithful women there who are still carrying on, you see, and they, of course, have to have help from the outside, but that's all right. They just keep right on going. And so, it's not because we look down upon women or that we're trying to disenfranchise them, as folks tell us. No, sir. No, ma'am. You see, the rule is, the command is, you see, the example is, in one assembly with men speaking and just one at a time. It would be unlawful. It would be wrong for, you see, while I'm preaching here for another, at the same time, you see, to stop preaching or teaching. That just simply would default. Indeed, it would. And so, because of commands, when it comes to the Lord's table, let's do remembrance of me. Remember, Christ would say. And so, we worship the way we do here at the table because of commands, you see. We give of our means on the Lord's day, not any other time. We just give of our means on the Lord's day. Not long ago, a gentleman came in our assembly one Lord's Day evening. He sat on the back pew. And we had never seen him before. And this was somewhat of a switch for us, because in the vestibule he said, I've enjoyed what I've heard here tonight. I've enjoyed seeing you people and meeting you people. And he said, I'm surprised that you did not tonight pass the collection basket. Well, that gave us, a cue to explain to this man, we don't do it that way. We have the Lord's Day contribution, and that's for Christians and Christians only. If, of course, an outsider wanted to contribute, that's an outsider's business, but he in no way is expected to do so, And so this man was very, very much surprised. He said, well, I would just like to give the church a contribution. I would just simply like to do that. And he said, I am just surprised and disappointed that you people did not do what I see everywhere else I go. Well, these things are sometimes surprises for folks. Well, why don't we worship the way we do? Because of commands. And I said to you, because of example. If we want an example of all that we do, we need only go to 1 Corinthians. When it comes to the music, if you please, 1 Corinthians 14:15, sing with the Spirit, the understanding also. When it comes to praying, same thing. 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 15, praying with the Spirit and the understanding also. An example for the teaching, if you please. Just read 1 Corinthians 14, verses 31-34. We mentioned that a while ago. When it comes to the Lord's Supper, when it comes to communion, when it comes to, if you please, the breaking of bread, it is sometimes called. We just need to go to 1 Corinthians 11, verses 23-30, and it's just simply delineated, outlined right there for us. And when it comes to giving, 1 Corinthians 16, verse 2. Yes, as an example, you see. Sometimes I at home just simply put on one side the way we worship here, and then the way they worship in Corinth. And I'm always encouraged when I find out that the church at home worships exactly like Paul wrote that the church in Corinth worshipped. And that incident, it was the Church of Christ in Corinth. Yes, it was. Sure was. The Church of Christ in Corinth. How do you know, preacher? That was the Church of Christ in Corinth. I know it was because it was the only church in existence, you say. That's right. The only one in existence. And you don't have to go to some preacher of the Church of Christ either for that. You can just simply look at the history of religion, and you will just simply find that in Christ's day, and after Christ died, after he died, one of the reasons he died was to build, if you please, the church, and then were first added to in Acts the 2nd chapter. And so that was indeed, the Church of Christ had to be the only one in existence, you see. And I'll just go over that. It's the only one still. Now some people say, preacher, that's 300 times, and you have all these 300 more out here, likely more than that nowadays. If you are that, these religious organizations, you're just simply saying, well, the Church of Christ, back then there was just one, and now you're saying, and you just sort of make a little bit worse, and I don't like that, they say, and you say it's still the only church. Well, that's right. Don't be afraid to verbalize that. Don't be afraid to believe that. Don't be afraid to stand for that, you see. That's just as true as it can be. And so, why don't we worship the way we do here? Because of clear-cut example. Because of commands, indeed. upon the apostle who would teach one thing and then practice, if you please, worship in another way. I believe with all of my heart, and I tell my folks out where I call home, and I don't do this to boast or anything about it, about the church. And I don't do it to boast about the church here necessarily either. But I'll tell you, you know where Paul the apostle would go if he came back here to this world? Do you know where he would go to worship? That man would go to worship where people worship, just like he told those Corinthians to worship. That's exactly where he would go. Do you mean that that man was so double-minded that he would preach one thing, and then if he came back here to the earth, he would practice something absolutely different? Oh, tonight, friends, I exalt in this, that if the Apostle Paul were to come back and come through those doors here tonight, he will come in here as he surveyed the church here, how the worship is conducted. Oh, I think thrilled he would be to know, well, these people are worshiping just like I wrote to the church at Corinth nearly 2,000 years ago. They're doing exactly what I said do, in the way I said do it. You know, I think that's important. I think that is great. Indeed, indeed. If he would come back here, where would he go? He wouldn't go out here where people don't worship according to what he said in the book. No, sir, no, ma'am. He wasn't that kind of a fellow. No, he was not that kind of a fellow. He was just simply come where people worship, you see, exactly like he lined it out. Well, tonight, why do we worship the way we do here? Certainly because of commands, examples. I submit to, as we try to bring the lesson to a close a little past 8:30 tonight, we worship the way we do here because of the truth and because of the pattern. And friends, you just can't improve on a pattern. And the pattern is set. I think we've outlined here the pattern. You know the pattern. Isn't it great tonight that you and I, finding ourselves one day closer than we've ever been before, when it comes to worshiping God the way we do here, we have a pattern for it. We can read the pattern, you see. We can point the pattern out to others. And of course, so many will say, well, I know what it says, but I don't really believe that. You just don't say it like I do. I don't say it like you do. You don't say it like I do. And that doesn't mean that you're right either, you know, that I don't say it like you do. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong, that I'll say it like you do, you see. You know how people reason, don't you? The point is, as we try to make a point, I think the other night, in talking about the book, if everybody would just simply read the book and do exactly what it says. Just what it says. Not what I think it says, you think it says. Not what the preacher interprets it to say, but just what it says. Just read it and do what it says. We'd all be one. We sure would. There'd be no distinctions out there. There'd be no differences, you see. And so, because of the truth tonight, because of the pattern, we worship the way we do here. Why do we worship the way we do here? Well, because of the scriptures. I submit to because of divine expectation. God expects us to live right. God expects us to follow his pattern. God expects us to do, you know what he said. God expects obedience. I don't understand folks nowadays that just apparently don't think that God expects people to obey and do what he said. Well, praise that we worship the way we do because of divine expectations. And I submit to because of examples of the danger of not heeding commands, not following examples, you see, taking liberties to change, substitute, add, subtract in dealing with thus saith the Lord. The Old Testament is full of examples of people who took, you know, just one liberty got them into serious trouble. Remember Moses, so wonderful. Oh, what a fine fellow he was. He, you know, was a type of Jesus Christ, our Savior. He really was. I know you read the story of Moses and how the Israelites dealt with him and were so disrespectful so many times. Yes, time after time, disobedient to what Moses told the Lord expected them to do. And you know, one time Moses was told to bring together there without water, and he was told, you know, to bring together, speak to the rock, and the water would come forth. Instead of speaking, remember, he just simply told them that he failed to glorify him, sanctify him in the eyes of the people. Moses, you won't get to go into the land of promise. Moses, you just won't leave them there because of this. Oh, I think that's so sad. Poor Moses has led them so far and so long, and then he comes along and he just does this one thing. You know, that was disobedience. Certainly, someday we'll sing the song of Moses and the Lamb. Absolutely. Moses was taken to Mount Pisgah's heights, remember? And if you'd have fallen off the promised land, and he died there, and was buried in a tomb on home with God, that you won't cry. In view of the fact that Moses done so much, for the Lord's people. But I'm just saying, pointing out to you, friends, it doesn't pay, you see, to deviate from the pattern. When the pattern is set, it just simply doesn't pay, you see, to do it otherwise. And then there were those two men who were transporting the Ark of the Covenant, you know. They were not priests, and only priests were to do that. And when they did it, they were to, you know, the Ark of the Covenant, a beautiful thing. It was made of acacia wood overlaid with purest gold, and there was a ring there, and a ring over here, and a ring there, and a ring there. And those rings were for a purpose. There was a stave that went through those two rings, and one that went through these. And then when this was transported, the Ark of the Covenant, those staves had to rest upon the shoulders of priests. Not just a man qualified, had to be a priest, had to be, if you please, of the tribe of Levi. Indeed, had to be, if you please, to the family of Aaron, and had to rest here upon his shoulders. Well, one day, the Ark of the Covenant was, somebody's house, and it needed to be taken back to the house of the Lord, and so there were two men, and they constructed a new cart. I think that's wonderful, that they constructed a new cart. They didn't just use some old cart that they had used for something else, but they just simply made a new cart, and on this new cart they put the Ark of the Covenant. And they're going along the way, and it seems that the Ark of the Covenant is going to topple and fall off of that new cart. And one of these men, Uzzah is his name, he reaches out his hand to steady that Ark of the Covenant, and when he does, he dies right there. Dies right there. This proves to you and to me, and this should be a lesson for all men, shouldn't it? That we just simply know when the Lord says do a thing, we better do it. And when he says do it in a certain way, we better do it that certain way. You say, oh, we cannot be too particular, too careful right there. I submit you to, why do we worship the way we do here? Because of the ground of unity. Now, I want you to follow me right here, please, friends. If I could not prove in the book that we had to sing as we do, I would have to do it anyway because it's the ground of unity. It never divides religious people. Just sing. Everybody does it. You know, sing without an instrument. That is, everybody does it once in a while. Nobody says it's wrong. Tonight when I lie down in slumber, not knowing that I will ever awake again to see this world, the same with all of us, I guess. I love to just, when I talk to the Lord in my final moments of wakefulness, I like to talk to him about a lot of things, and I like to just get things straight. I think that's a real good practice. Just get things straight as you can. And it does me a great deal of good to know that in my practice, in worshiping the Lord the way we do, is the ground of unity. Yes, nobody says it's wrong to sing the way we do. People do it differently, but they don't say it's wrong. If people want unity tonight in this great state of Kentucky, religiously, we'll just let them come and just simply meet us on the ground of unity where we are. I would say that boastfully, braggingly, but that's just as true as it can be. When it comes to praying, one man praying at a time, nobody says that's wrong. Lifting up holy hands without wrapping down, nobody says that's wrong. Everybody says that's all right. That's the ground of unity. When it comes to teaching, preaching, in one assembly, women keeping silent, nobody says that's wrong. Nobody says that's wrong. I submit you to, it's never divided. Religious people never has. Ground of unity. When it comes to that thing in the morning, nobody says it's wrong with the way we do it. Nobody says wrong. Have one look on that table. I've never seen him at. Yeah, he might not believe in it. He might not practice it. So he would look me in the eye and argue with that and say, you know what, that's wrong. They know it isn't wrong. You see, people know it isn't wrong. It's just as right as it can be. To have one loaf of bread on that table, one cup of food on that. Nobody says it's wrong to have one cup of food on that, one loaf on the table. Nobody says it's wrong. Ground of unity. Ground of unity, you see, never divided God's people either. Sure didn't. You know, I've preached in my time in places where brethren were locked out of meeting houses. They came to meet, and I go this summer down to a place that's just about 12 miles or so down the railroad track from a place I preached at for years and years, where the brethren came one sad Lord's Day, and there was a padlock on the door because they've been locked out. They've been locked out because of error, you see. That was their building, but they've been locked out. Those people that day thought it was best until they got some direction from over the county courthouse. They thought it was really best to just meet out in the trees that day, and that they did. Makes one cry when I think about it. The neighbor, who was a denominationalist, who was too good to have died out of the church, but he did. He never would come to the church, but Mr. Walker was his name. He told those people, the leaders that day, he said, you know, I saw them put the lock on the door. I know who did it. He said, if you don't want to go in that building, that's all right. That's your business. He said, my living room is open. He was a denominational fellow. Neighbor, good neighbor. You can meet right in there today. You come right on. Well, the brother thought it might be best just to, meet out in the trees and sing from memory and just do the best they could that day. And Mr. Walker said, well, I'll bring you a table where you can spread the communion. Oh, he knew how it was done. And so he said, I'm going to bring you the table, and if you'll have that out there, you'll have it eat for communion on. So he brought the table out for that. Well, the point is, brothers and sisters in Christ, error is a terrible, terrible thing. It will cause meeting houses to be locked, really will. And one of the saddest things I know, you see, are these things. When people bring in such things, as individual cups, instruments of music, the Sunday school. Not long after I obeyed the gospel, I just sort of relate this little personal incident. We didn't have a meeting house in my little town, a sawmill town in southeast Oklahoma, little town, very poor, depression days. We were just sort of coming out of it, deep depression, dark depression. We were meeting house to house because we couldn't do any better. We had on the table one loaf of unleavened bread, one cup of fruit of the vine, and we had no Sunday school classes. We had one man teaching at a time. We had no organ, no piano. We didn't do those things. We really didn't know very many other people anywhere that did that, did it that way. My dad and one other man just sort of read the book, just sort of kind of what the book said. I would think back then, I want to cry, that they had so little help. They just simply went with the book. We didn't know any of the preachers we know today. We knew nothing about that. And so one day, though, we had used preachers, that didn't believe the way we did. They believed in Sunday school and music cups and maybe instruments, I don't know, all these things, God does teach, And so we used their preachers. And so I'll take you to the trouble. One sad day, my parents had that night before kept a preacher. My mother fed him, and she made him a bed, and my dad had provided for him. And so the next morning, the vision came, and I remember sitting on the porch, my eyes out, and these people passing by our place was the meeting house, the place, but they were going to another place that day because of the vision. And what happened to the preacher that my folks had kept that night fed him for people to the vision. Heartbreak. That's what these things will do. Why do we worship the way we do here? I'll tell you, friends, it'll never break a heart. It won't. It'll never divide the church. It really won't. It'll never turn father against son, son against father. It'll never turn brother against brother. Indeed, it won't. I say this without prejudice tonight, without bias. Indeed, because it is the ground of unity tonight. Nobody says it's wrong to do this. And so, I'll tell you, let's take our stand on, practices that will never divide. Practices that Fumio teaches, well, because of these innovations, such as Sunday school, cups, and instruments, those kinds of things, because of these innovations, you know what they do? They will denominationalize. They will sectarianize the church. They'll just simply make the church another sectarian body, another denomination. There's a man in my town called me not long ago, and he said, Brother McCord, I need to talk to you about this. He says, I don't believe like you do. I don't meet where you do. You know how I practice or where I go. And he says, what worries me is what we're practicing over there is just making the church of Jesus Christ just another institution among men. I said, amen, brother. You're just right. You're right off there. Absolutely. That's what's happening over there. And he said, I know that. You're telling that. I know that. Well, he said that before I did. Well, that's what it will do. I'll tell you, friends, you just let innovations come in, and it will just simply make the church another denomination. It will make the church another organization among men. The church will lose its identity. That was what that man said that night too. He said, the Church of Christ where I go, we're losing our identity. We're becoming just like these religious bodies around us. I said, no wonder. No wonder. Come to the book, you see, and it doesn't happen that way, you see. Some years ago, I went up here at Bethany, West Virginia, and I never wanted to go up there really. I've been certainly interested in what we call the restoration, and but I've always been more interested in go back to Jerusalem, you see, and go back to the book, you see, go back to the apostles, than maybe go to the Campbells or something like that. And I respect all that they've done. Indeed, I do. But I had my eyes open up at Bethany. The most interesting thing up there is the old meeting house. And the old meeting house, it's sort of like this one. It reminds you of this one. There are no crosses anywhere. The hallmark of Catholicism, none of those. There are no steeples with their pagan significance. No steeples anywhere. There are no stained glass windows anywhere. There's no organ, no piano there. There are no Sunday school rooms anywhere around. There are no kitchens. There are no social halls. There are no banquet halls. There are no reception halls. A plain meeting house like this one right here. And then to take us all the way back to the practice of the church. On the table there is one cup and one plate signifying the one loaf on the table. One of the most impressive things I've ever seen. But then down the road, down the street, were these people who met there years and years ago and practiced is what we practice. They moved down there, no longer do they even wear the name of the church. They don't even wear the name anymore. They have women preachers. They have an organ. No telling how much that thing costs. They have Sunday schools. They're connected with colleges. Again, they no longer wear the name. This is a picture, if I've ever seen one, of what, if you please, digression, innovations will do to the church. It will just simply cause the church to lose its identity. You look at this group down here that used to be, and their forebears met up here in the old meeting house. And I'll tell you, the church has lost its identity. And it'll do that in Rome, Kentucky. It'll do that in Dominican, California. It will do that anywhere where the people are still meeting as the Lord would have us. If we would just let these things that, men have dreamed up, if we let them come in. Oh, I submit to you, friends, and I'll hold you in the song. These things are mentioned, they exalt human authority. And when they do, they debase divine authority. And anything that does that is up for serious question. I submit to you, too, that all of these things we mentioned tonight, that would change, you see. Why do we worship the way we do here? Because we know what these things do. They will divide the church. They're stumbling blocks, just like they did in my very young days in the church. I saw with my own eyes, with my own ears, divided right there in front of me. Couldn't do one thing about it, you see. Yes, that's what it will do, you see. Gives us to, believe the pattern, false sense of security. It really does. One of my complaints against denominationalism, against sectarianism, against digression in the body of Jesus Christ is that it blinds people's eyes to the truth. And there is a turning down his eye tonight, you ought to. And all is going to stand out again someday before God in judgment. And I submit to you, friends, that all these things that will change, if you please, how we do things, if you please, in the scriptures, all of these things someday will be out there to help us if we're not careful. Well, tonight, why do we worship the way we do here? Hopefully, I have answered the question. One more thing. You look at all of these innovations, such as the instrument, cups on the table, robes, the Sunday school. Who did they originate? I'll tell you. They didn't originate in the book. You take them back. Just go back to their origin, and you'll find them originating in the denominations, in the sectarian market. That's where they came from. That's where we adopt them. Those are no name. Thank the Lord for people like you. Thank you for sitting here listening to me tonight, and I've kept you long tonight. I've kept you too long tonight, and I'm sorry, but I had a lot of things I need to say. I only hope that you've understood out this lesson. Hope that someday up ahead you will stand in good stead. May God bless you. Are you not tonight a Christian? Would you come obey the gospel? Would you come believe in Mark 16:16? Repent of your sins. Luke 13:3. Confess Christ before these people. Matthew 2:32. And being a penitent believer is through the water of baptism. After having confessed Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and be raised to walk in newness of life. A member of the body of Jesus Christ. Added there by God himself, you see. How wonderful. Are you married, child? Won't you come?